Right. Welcome back, everybody, to the brain injury discussion. This is your host, Jay. Today, we are going to talk about holiday brain injury, or maybe brain injuries that might be more pertinent or common around this time. Specifically, we're talking about Christmas. I, like a lot of people, like to travel and see family, but we need to be careful not to get a brain injury. And so maybe we should look at Santa's brain injuries as well. He's got a dangerous job. But with that being said, sources will be in the description below. We'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Maybe give us a like. Maybe comment down below if you think Santa has a brain injury. But with that being said, let's get started into this. So first, let's look at Santa's brain injury symptoms. He's on rooftops a lot, so he's at a big fall risk. He's also kind of an elderly gentleman if you think about it, so maybe his balance isn't quite there. And being on top of a roof is not a great place for Santa Claus to be. Obviously, he operates in winter, so there's a lot of ice slipping and possibly falling. Maybe he fell on the way to his sleigh. Um, Climbing down chimneys, again, that's risk for smoke inhalation. I mean, especially if the chimneys are going and there's snow outside. Maybe you live in the Northeast and maybe you rely on a wood burning stove. That's probably not safe for Santa Claus. Giving gifts to good people, well, that's impulsivity right there. That's a sign of executive dysfunction. We also see that giving cold and misbehaving people, that might be another type of executive dysfunction. Maybe he equates that with being bad or something. Not quite sure. That might be an executive functioning issue there. A diet of milk and cookies. We might be talking about some hyperglycemic encephalopathy. Cookies and milk are not necessarily good things to eat on their own. They're good once in a while, but I'm sure a lot of people leave that out for him. But if we look at this from the critical eye, obviously, it's not a good idea to be on a rooftop in the winter, especially when there's ice. Especially, it's not a good idea unless you're up there with safety measures. Especially with ice, a lot of slipping and falling can happen. Ice doesn't care about your four-wheel drive. Uh, Going down chimneys, again, you want to make sure your chimney is clear and well maintained. If you have one, make sure that you're heating your house properly. Giving gifts is always a good thing, but someone who might have executive function might be going far with this. Again, giving coal to people, that might be a fun little jest, but again, that's if you see something out of the norm for someone, that might be a sign of a brain injury. That might be one of the side effects. And of course, even in wintertime, even around the holidays, as much as I love my eggnog, we got to be careful about our diet and make sure that, especially if you're diabetic, you got to make sure that your blood sugar is good. So maybe replace milk and cookies with water and celery. Uh, but those are just some of my suggestions. Now, with the fun part out of the way, let's get started into the meat and potatoes. So obviously during Christmas time and in the winter, generally speaking, people will be heating their homes because it'll be cold outside. And so usually there's extra heating during the winter. And so we see that especially with gas or wood burning stoves and other kinds of heating, there might be carbon monoxide or CO. Carbon monoxide poisoning, again, that is a present danger with certain types of heat. So we also see that lights sometimes are on overnight and they might cause electrical fires. Again, smoke inhalation can cause um, hypoxia as well as anoxia, and that can be a very bad thing. Again, Christmas tree lights, you want to make sure they are plugged in correctly and that you're not overdoing it on a electrical outlet. So that can be a fire hazard there. Again, all of the above can cause a brain injury, especially smoke inhalation, carbon monoxide poisoning, fire hazards. Again, these are things that you can do to prevent not only a catastrophic thing happening to your house uh, or your residence, but also to prevent a brain injury. And so I like talking about prevention. And this is one of those ways that, yes, we can prevent brain injury. But with that being said, let's continue on and let's move outside of the rooms of the house and let's move to the outside of the house. Well, there's a lot of slipping and falling hazards. Again, like there's ice. There's ice on the roads and on walkways, possibly, especially when you get a little bit of sunlight, it melts that top layer of snow and then creates that layer of ice underneath it. Again, you want to be careful. You want to wear proper footwear when you're going outside. Again, a risk of car accidents because people are traveling, but also because the ice, you could be on a road all to yourself. And if there's a patch of ice, it doesn't care about the 4x4 in your gigantic pickup truck, or doesn't care about the rear wheel drive car or the front wheel drive car. Ice doesn't discriminate. And so when you hit that patch of ice on the road, you could be in danger of running off the road. And so you want to be careful. So let's talk about decorating. We see that these lights right here, um, they're all held up by these little devices here. But in order to get those devices up there to hold up and to hang up the Christmas lights, you have to get on a ladder and go and apply it. So you got to nail the lights on or apply them. And so that involves ladders and roofs, which again, can lead to a possible brain injury because if you fall off that ladder, you especially at a elevated height, like let's say 10 feet, that could be bad. Chances are you can hit your head. And so again, you want to do so safely. So there's a potential here for brain injury, especially with falls and traumatic brain injury, maybe a concussion, which again, concussions can happen from falling, slipping on ice. And so this is something that you might want to be aware of, especially if you're going to hang Christmas lights. Maybe have someone hold the ladder steady for you. Maybe make sure that the ladder's not on ice. Maybe make sure that you're not going to be on a patch of ice when you're doing that. And you want to make sure that you take appropriate safety measures, especially when it comes to footwear. I don't know anyone that would want to wear flip-flops but if you're going to go out in the snow and there might be ice out there, maybe having a good pair of boots would be a good idea. But with that being said, let's continue and let's talk about travel hazards. Again, a lot of people travel during this period of time, ranging from like Thanksgiving all the way past and into the new year. Um, this is also a time of year where there's less light during the day. Obviously, being winter, uh, you're going to not only have colder weather, but you're also going to have less light during the day. So the daylight hours won't be as long as if they were in the opposite season, which would be summer. And so in the summer, you got tons of light in the morning, in the evening, but in winter, there's less light out. So sunlight hours are much less. And so before you drive, maybe get rested the day before. Maybe make sure you have a good night's sleep. A lot of people travel long distances during the holidays. And they're usually a lot of times on very short timelines. They got a very limited window that they can go, especially if you're going to, let's say, an airport. Um, a good way to prevent an accident that way is to leave early and plan appropriate stops if you are driving. So if I'm driving a couple hundred miles during Christmas, I want to make sure that I get there on, that I allow for enough time that maybe there is traffic. Maybe I should slow down, especially in weather like what we see here. Also, expect that there will be heavier than usual traffic because, again, many people are traveling. It's not just you that is traveling, it's everyone else. And so, if you're operating a motor vehicle, you want to make sure that you're not only being responsible for yourself, but you're being safe around yourself and others as well. Car accidents cause a lot of traumatic brain injuries. And so, maybe look into a lesser traveled route, make sure that the roads are clear. Um, as we can see in this picture here, there's a lot of snow there, and it looks like there's a lot of traffic, but there also seems to be some slush on the ground as well. And so it would be better to avoid the roads that everyone's traveling on, but you also got to think, okay, which roads are cleared, which ones are salted, which ones are sanded. And so that's something to keep in mind. Again, numerous distractions happen this time of year, so maybe put down your cellular device, maybe put on a podcast and just let it go. And you don't want to be looking at your phone while trying to concentrate on the road, especially not just any other time, but especially so if there's snow or ice on the ground. And then you also have other possible road hazards, which include the snow and the ice and other drivers. All right. This is a good picture here to the right of the screen, and you can see that, yes, there is snow and slush on the ground, and people should be careful about it. And also, you want to clear your vehicle of any ice, otherwise that might fly and hit the guy to you, to your rear. And so that might be a good idea. It's like, hey, take an extra moment, get there, get to your car a little earlier, clear it off, make sure your windshield is clear, make sure your tires have tread and that are functional. Make sure your vehicle works properly, make sure it's got fresh oil, make sure it's working properly. And so that would prevent something else from happening, especially when it comes to tires. You want good tires when driving through the snow. But with that being said, I think this is a lot of information to cover. And what should a brain injury case manager like myself think when it comes to seasonal brain injury, when it comes to the winter time, especially Christmas, the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate? There's some things that maybe we should pay attention to. For example, we want to look and prevent electrical or house fires. We want to find, so if you go into the residents, maybe take a one glance around. Make sure that you're not plugging 14,000 things into one outlet. That might overload it. Again, you want to connect those electronics and the lights correctly. Otherwise, you do risk having a fire. Obviously, consider heating in the house, but you also want to be watchful and make sure that your carbon monoxide and fire alarms are also operational and working. That might be able to save someone's life in the case that there is a fire. And so, or carbon monoxide, who knows? Maybe it's a gas heated home. Also, you want to look for potential for falls and slipping on ice. Maybe a little bit of salt would be good to have so that way you can melt the ice on the driveway, especially or your front porch or whatever. You want to avoid that slip on the ice. That's one easy way to get a brain injury, especially if you fall and hit your head. So again, take your time, use those safety measures. Use the handlebars or use railings if you have to. Traveling. Again, a lot of people travel and commute, and so the commuting in this time frame around Christmas is more dangerous. I still want people to commute in holiday times. I want them to take this proper safety measures. But this kind of draws me to this point of you want to prepare and you want to plan for the weather and traffic. During this time of year, obviously, I'm sure myself and many others are looking forward to spending time with their family, um, maybe engaging in some fun, drinking eggnog, leaving milk and cookies out for Santa Claus. But I think Santa Claus has a brain injury, but that doesn't mean you have to. And even if you do, let's prevent the next one. But with that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Here are my references. This is definitely some simple common sense things, but I think it bears repeating from time to time that we could certainly take advantage of a few safety measures. So before you go out on this trip, maybe leave a little early. Maybe make sure you have a backup plan. Make sure that your tires on your vehicle are, have good tread. Make sure that you have an emergency kit in your car. All those things are very simple, but also, make sure that you're taking measures not to give yourself a brain injury. And so, with that being said, I hope you all have a very happy holiday, however you celebrate it. I hope you enjoy it. And other than that, I hope you all protect your brains. Take care, everybody.